What if the most powerful thing you could do is stop watching everyone else? 2,000 years ago, a slave named Epictetus discovered the one thing no master could ever take: his own mind. And modern neuroscience just proved him right. In the next few minutes, why your brain is hardwired to compare yourself to everyone, and why that wiring is quietly destroying your focus. The 2.7 times higher risk nobody talks about. 3 ancient practices: the morning command, the 5-year filter, the evening audit that you can start tonight. And what actually happens when you turn your attention inward? The noise gets quieter, the work gets finished, and one day you stop checking. This is the moment everything changes. Stay with me. There is a specific moment, and almost no one talks about it, when a person stops looking around, stops checking who's ahead of them, stops measuring their life against someone else's highlight reel, stops waiting for the world to tell them they're enough. And in that moment, something shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a door closing on a room you didn't realize was draining you. In the next 8 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why focusing on yourself, not as a self-help cliché, but as a deliberate, ancient, psychologically verified practice, is the single most powerful thing you can do right now. And more importantly, you're going to see what actually happens when you do it. Because the Stoics knew something 2,000 years ago that modern neuroscience has only recently confirmed. Here's something most people don't want to hear. The urge to compare yourself to others, to check where you rank, to measure your progress against someone else's, is not a character flaw. It's biology. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger published what became one of the most cited papers in the history of social psychology. He called it social comparison theory. His finding was simple and devastating. Human beings have a built-in drive to evaluate themselves by looking at other people. We were wired for it. Evolutionarily, knowing where you stood in the group was survival information. But here's the problem. That ancient wiring is now running inside a world of curated Instagram feeds, LinkedIn promotions, and highlight reels designed by algorithms to make you feel behind. And the research is clear. People who engage in frequent, uncontrolled social comparison are significantly more likely to experience envy, guilt, regret, and defensiveness. Those spending more than 2 hours a day on social media are 2.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression. You are not weak for feeling this. You are running ancient software in a modern world. Around 50 AD, in a city called Hierapolis, in what is now modern Turkey, a boy was born into slavery. His name, given by his master, was Epictetus. It literally meant acquired, a possession, a thing. He was brought to Rome and assigned to serve Epictetus, a powerful freedman in the court of Emperor Nero. His master could dictate where he went, what he did, even, according to some historical accounts, break his leg in a fit of rage. And yet, Epictetus became the most influential philosopher of his generation. Emperors studied his work. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, kept his teachings close. How? Because Epictetus understood something that his master never could take from him. He wrote it at the very beginning of his Enchiridion, his handbook for living. Some things are in our control and others not. That's it. That's the whole thing. Your opinions, your intentions, your choices. Those are yours. Everything else, reputation, outcomes, what other people think of you, is not. He called this prohairesis, the faculty of moral choice, the one thing no one can touch. A slave who owned nothing discovered that the most important thing in the world, his own mind, had never been taken from him. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. Neuroscientists call it prefrontal cortex regulation. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, The part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking, goal maintenance, and self-control is in a constant competition with the parts of your brain that want immediate reward. Every time you check someone else's metrics, every time you refresh a feed to see how your post performed, every time you make a decision based on what someone else might think, you are pulling your prefrontal cortex away from your own goals and handing it to the algorithm. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Chronic stress, the kind that comes from constant comparison, constant performance, constant noise, physically degrades the prefrontal cortex. It causes the loss of dendritic spines in the neurons responsible for inhibitory control. In plain language, the more you live for the outside world, the less capacity you have to build your own. The Stoics didn't have brain scans, but they knew. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, a journal he never intended anyone to read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here's the misconception that keeps people stuck. They think focusing on yourself means becoming cold, isolated, selfish. But psychology researcher Murray Bowen spent decades studying what he called differentiation of self, the ability to maintain your own identity and emotional regulation while still being connected to others. His finding? People with higher self-differentiation have better psychological health, better relationships, and greater capacity for genuine connection. Focusing on yourself doesn't make you less available to others. It makes you more present, more grounded, more real. Seneca put it this way: if you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. You cannot outrun your own mind, but you can rebuild it. So what does this actually look like in practice? The first practice, the morning command. Before you reach for your phone, before you let the outside world in, ask yourself one question. What is the one thing that is mine to do today? Not what you should post, not what someone else is doing. What is yours? The Stoics called this prosopia, watchful attention to the self. It is the act of setting your own direction before the world sets it for you. The second practice, the 5-year filter. When you feel the pull of comparison, when someone else's success starts to feel like your failure, ask, will this matter in 5 years? Not as a dismissal, as a recalibration. Because most of what we agonize over is noise. And the Stoic practice of prohairesis is simply the act of choosing, deliberately, what gets your attention. The third practice, the evening audit. Seneca did this every night. Before sleep, he reviewed his day, not to punish himself, but to ask, did I act according to my own values today, or did I perform for someone else? One question, every night. It is the simplest form of self-accountability that exists. Here's what the competitor videos never tell you. Here's what actually happens when you focus on yourself. The noise doesn't disappear overnight, but it gets quieter. You start finishing things. Not because you're more disciplined, but because you're no longer splitting your attention between your goals and everyone else's opinion of them. You stop needing the validation, not because you've suppressed the desire, but because you've replaced it with something more satisfying. Evidence. Evidence that you are building something real. People around you notice a change they can't quite name. There's a steadiness to you, a calm that doesn't need to announce itself. And one day, and this is the part that surprises people, you realize you've stopped checking. Not because you forced yourself to, because you stopped caring. Not in a cold way, in a free way. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, spent his nights writing reminders to himself, not about his empire, about his mind, because he understood that the empire outside was only as stable as the empire within. You don't need to be an emperor to apply this. You just need to decide today that your attention is the most valuable thing you own, and that you're done giving it away for free. So, here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. Which of those 3 practices are you going to start tonight? The morning command, the 5-year filter, or the evening audit? Drop it in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. Because writing it down is the first act of prohairesis. If this resonated with you, the next video on this channel goes even deeper into what Marcus Aurelius actually did during the worst years of his reign to stay grounded. You'll want to watch that one. Like this video if it gave you something real. Subscribe if you want more of it. And remember, the moment you stop watching them, everything changes.